I'm recording this on the first day of summer 2022. I hope most of my viewers are taking advantage of the recent market dip. So right now as I speak, emerging market stocks are down some 20–25%. Silver was down, well, depending on where you started, right? From the GameStop highs of last year, it's down a good 30-some%, right? The mining stocks are down 50%, and I've been excited about that. And all I can think about is the song by Ludacris, "How Low Can You Go?" I even wrote some new lyrics to it with the different ETFs that I'll buy. GDXJ, how low can you go? SLVP, how low can you go? EPOL, how low can you go? Let's go, Brandon and Putin. How low can you go? How low can you go? And as I'm taking advantage of the market, it dawns on me that life is full of these fleeting opportunities that if you don't capitalize on them, you may not get another chance to do it, right? So I had the reason I'm here out in Idaho is I had an upset with my boss, and I think he very grudgingly gave me this vacation. I mean, it's a slow time of the year anyway. I work at a tutoring center. He doesn't have a whole lot of students. But I could have gotten this vacation in a much more beautiful way, in a much more controlled way. Right now he feels like, take it, you know, you've been annoying me enough. But I remember there were times when he was really singing some praises about me. You see, I work with one of my colleagues. He's in college, and obviously he has college schedules to contend with. I got a couple other colleagues who are older, and this is just like me, it's their second job, or maybe they're retired and just doing this kind of for fun. So the point I'm trying to make is that most people see me as the most flexible, and to an extent I am. What I'm not is not having a life, right? So during the holiday season, you can imagine a lot of people had difficulty showing up, and I was the only instructor there. And I was just thinking there were times when he really sang praises for me during that time, but I failed to capitalize on it. I mean, granted, I had only been working there 2 months at that point, so maybe that was a different story. But next year, if I'm still there during the holiday season, I'm definitely going to think about this. So what I mean by this. So Thanksgiving week, if I remember correctly, I was the only instructor there for multiple days. We got 8, 10, 12 students. You gotta understand, the kind of students who would show up on a Thanksgiving week, they really need it, right? Or their family is really pushing them, right? These are very high profile students who would show up on Thanksgiving week, right, compared to other weeks of the year. And my boss was really praising me, and you know, obviously he had a hard time finding anybody during the Thanksgiving week, right? Now, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I was there, and got 10, 12 students again. Both he and my boss and I were really busy on that. And the good thing about weeks like Thanksgiving is that your typical problem behavior students are not going to show up. So it was very beautiful work there, even though we were swamped. Now that last hour, I was working a 3 to 7 shift. That last hour, we had like 1 student, and my boss looked at me and said, "Oh, you can go." And I was a little disheartened because, like I said, the kind of student who would show up at 6 p.m. on a Thanksgiving Eve, I'll let you imagine what kind of student that is. But it's somebody who's nice to work with, right? And I really kind of needed those hours too. But I left, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking he ought to pay me for that hour anyway, because these are not typical hours that I did, and this is Thanksgiving. And so I get my paycheck at the end of November, and he doesn't pay me that hour, and it's just a little bit disheartening. I mean, he shouldn't have legally, but it's still disheartening. Let's put it that way. It's kind of like if you play 10 scratch-off lottery tickets and you lose them all. I mean, you're not legally entitled to win any one of them, right? But it's still disheartening, right? That's how I like to compare it. But okay, so I left. Christmas came around and went, New Year's came around and went. At the beginning of this year, I had some disheartening situations with my family life and a few other things that I don't want to talk about. And it kind of weighed heavily on my work performance. And I made a few minor mistakes. Nothing terrible. I mean, we're not talking about mistakes where, oh my God, you know, we're never going to be able to resolve this. But he pointed them out, and I quickly resolved my life matters, and that's all good now. But it hit me that when he was pointing, I mean, recently with the market dip, and I was thinking about this, it hit me that while he was pointing out those mistakes, it was like all the beautiful stuff that happened during Thanksgiving and Christmas kind of disappeared. And earlier this week, when I was upset about the vacation situation, it was like, God, why is this guy asking for a vacation? Here, take it. And it didn't go very well. And plus, he gave it to me at the last minute when I couldn't find a hotel. So what should have I done? Well, I should have bought the dip back in November, right? When he said, oh, you can go now. What I could have done was gone up to him and said, well, happy Thanksgiving. You know, I realize it's a challenging time, and I'm glad I'm able to have these beautiful students to work with during this time. By the way, I'm glad to fill in because obviously I don't have any local family here, but there are other things that I like to do, right? Next year we got a lunar eclipse. I would hope that by summer of next year the Computer Olympiad would come back in person. It turns out it didn't, but I would hope that by next year the Computer Olympiad would come back in person, and I'm excited to see about that. Why don't we touch base again in a couple months when we get closer and see what we can schedule. See, had I done it that way, this vacation probably would have been a lot more agreeable to both of us rather than a fuck you kind of settlement, right? Anyway, buy the dip financially and personally, right? I mean, if you don't, the dip goes and so does the opportunity to buy, right? It's kind of like if you watch and you complain about Bitcoin, you complain about GDXJ and you sell, by the time it recovers, you're gone, right? Anyways, it really pains me to see, I see so many news stories. Right now as I speak, inflation is running red hot, right? 8%, 10%. And it pains me to see news stories about what to do now. Clipping coupons, downsizing. And it pains me, I mean, okay, maybe those things are not the end of the world, but it pains me to see that people are doing this now, right? The time to fight inflation was before inflation happened, right? Not during it or after it, but kind of like that, right? The time to ask for vacation is when you're doing well, right? Not when you're burnt out and really need it, right?